Okay class, pop quiz. What is the least serious fighting game of all time? Built around silly items, iconic characters, changing stages, and is meant to be fun for the entire family. If you guessed Super Smash Bros., then good job, you're correct. Now here's a harder question. What's the most popular fighting game of all time? A game with insanely hard execution, a ridiculously high skill ceiling, and one of the largest, most competitive / try-hard communities in fighting game history. Why Smash Bros still here? Super Smash Bros. Should be studied. The devs were definitely cooking with some Mojo Jojo forbidden dark magic to create a game that is loved by the most die-hard fighting game players and also children that still blast their jammies. What's crazier is that Nintendo has managed to do this 5 times, with 3 of them being placed in the top 5 most successful fighting games of all time. That's not just a W. The W here stands for whole monopoly. Not only did Smash Bros. Create an entirely new genre, even though it wasn't the first, but we'll get into that in a bit, but they also created a hub to show off all of their cool characters across different games. Before Smash Bros., I thought Captain Falcon was the name of the car. And Samus girl? What? It's safe to say that Smash Bros. Is the most universally loved fighting game franchise on the planet. And possibly the most hated too, but let's not focus on that, okay? This success is no easy task, and I can't think of a single other company besides Nintendo that would be able to pull this off. But I can think of a bunch of other companies shameless enough to try. So today, we're gonna be diving into the very weird and sometimes awkward world of Smash Bros. Clones. And trust me, there's a lot of them. So can we talk about these? Has this ever happened to you? There you are, sitting in your living room, bored, and you remember that you gotta text your mom. But then you check your pocket and what's this? No phone? Well, here at OnePlus, they're here to help. We all believe in one slogan, that no bored person should ever have no phone. Put it on the screen, that we believe that. And with our spiffy OnePlus 11, you can make phone calls, send a hilarious text, or use the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 to play state-of-the-art video games with insane graphics. But what if I want to do more than one thing? Do I really have to buy 2 phones? Well, that's easy. With our 16 gigabytes of RAM technology, you can have more apps open than you could probably count to. And by the looks of you, that's over 9 apps. Yeah, it sounds great, but let me guess. This device is gonna cost me, I don't know, $10,000? With the OnePlus Redbox deals, you can get your hands on your own OnePlus 11 for as low as $549.99. So go ahead and get the OnePlus Redbox deal happening right now. Unlock the best prices this Black Friday and save up to $170. Thank you, OnePlus, for sponsoring the video. What better place to start than with Nintendo's own arch nemesis? No, I'm not talking about the modding community, come on. PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale answers Sony's age-old question, what if we did that? For starters, a lot of menus and cutscenes in this game have about as much personality and effort as AI art, which isn't really a make or break for me, but I do find it kinda weird that I have to mute the footage of this game before I get copyright claimed, because the main theme is just one of Madion's songs. And not even a song he made for this game either. It's just one of his songs. This is supposed to be Sony's answer to one of the largest competitors in the world. Not a FIFA game. Oh, wow, this song actually came out in a FIFA game as well. But besides the aesthetic, this game is close. It's so close to being great. And for what it's worth, Baby Scooch actually loved this game when it came out. The roster is a fantastic use of PlayStation's characters, with a blend of insane serial killers like Sweet Tooth and Kratos, but also Parappa and Sackboy. There's some odder choices as well, like Raiden. I guess Snake was busy. And they also used the only bad rendition of Dante that exists. Yeah, I apologize for reminding you that this happened. A very small nitpick, but I always found it kinda weird that Crash Bandicoot or Spyro the Dragon didn't make it into this game. I mean, sure they weren't owned by Sony, but neither was Heihachi or Big Daddy, so what gives? Also, did you know that Crash Bandicoot was made by the same studio that made The Last of Us? One of these games deals with harsh real-world issues, manipulating manipulation and losing faith in humanity. And then there's The Last of Us. For starters, instead of characters having a traditional attack button and a special button, as most platform fighters do, this game has 3 separate attack buttons, meaning that every single character has an extra button worth of attacks. A lot of characters in this game actually control pretty well, and they play a lot different from each other. Some are combo heavy, some are zoners, and some or both. If you play it for just a few minutes, you could tell that the developers really cared about the game they were making. But here's why it's not great. The major flaw that keeps this game from being a real contender. Instead of this game being about throwing your opponent off the map or tearing through their health bar, the people at Sony wanted to be unique and try something different. Characters don't actually take damage, and instead when you deal damage, you start to build up your super move meter, which you could use at levels 1, 2, or 3. And super moves are the only way you can kill each other, meaning that if you miss your super move, all of that work that you just put in was for nothing. Missing a super move feels about as great as missing a dead relative. And this also creates this terrible standoff situation where players run away from you when you have your super available, or wait until you're comboed by someone else to get a free kill. I mean, 1v1s are still fun, but this game is about as balanced as playing on the seesaw with Butterbean. High tier characters are so good that they're practically impossible to deal with. And since super moves are all that matter, any character with a semblance of hit stun can basically guarantee a kill every single time. It's just such a weird, intentional choice that I genuinely believe weighs the game down. Like a lot. And it sucks because you can't avoid it. There's no stamina mode, or any other mode for that matter. It just comes with the basic time and stock. And of course, there's an arcade mode with cutscenes that aren't that great. They're just kind of PNGs that bob around, which I think can get a little boring to look at. Still, with all of these issues, I bought this game on release and spent countless hours playing it with my friends. Kratos was of course banned, unless you wanted to get jumped. So I give this game 7.5 PlayStation Square buttons out of 10. Next up, we got Dream Mix TV World Fighters, which you've probably never heard of because it only came out in Japan. And if you're watching this video from Japan, another reason why you probably never heard of this game is because it's kind of ass. The game was created by Hudson Soft, which won our trust by making Mario Party, but then immediately punched us in the throat with Sonic Shuffle. The roster features a mix of characters from Hudson, Konami, and Tokara, which at this point were pretty big in their own right. And it's probably the weirdest roster I've ever seen in a fighting game. Hudson featuring characters like Master Higgins from Adventure Island, Ogami from Bloody Roar, and Bomberman from Bomberman. Tokara featuring characters like Megatron from Transformers, Optimus Prime from Transformers, and Tyson from the Beyblade anime? Oh god, I feel like I just got flashbanged. But by far the weirdest set of characters come from Konami, which features Solid Snake 5 years before he ended up in Smash Bros. Brawl. Wow, I guess he really was too busy for PlayStation All-Stars. And Simon Belmont is here? These two have met before? Also, if you beat the game as all 5 Konami characters, you unlock the secret 6th Konami character. And do you want to know which character they chose? It's the freaking Maui head from the background of Gradius. Like, why did they choose that? Now, this game is very basic. The character movesets seem like they were thrown together in 5 minutes by a dev that forgot they were supposed to be making a video game, and it's all just kind of a mess. The special button only does one move, and if you're really lucky, it does the same thing, just in a different direction. And if you're really, really lucky, it does more than one thing, but it just seems to be RNG based on the characters. I genuinely thought my controller was broken when I was playing as Tyson, but it turns out he only has one special move. Oh, sorry, my bad. I mean 3 moves. He could throw his Beyblade, and if you're in the air, he could throw his Beyblade, and if you're on a ledge, he could throw his Beyblade, and that's it. Other characters might have more, like Simon can angle the direction he throws his cross. Snake can satchel charge on the ground and detonate it, but he could also use it in a grab to attach it to the opponent. And my favorite character, Bomberman, can drop a bomb, pick up the bomb with the grab button, and then hold the special button again to create a war crime. But besides that, this game is just way too basic. The big gimmick here is that there's no stocks. Instead, you gotta beat the soul out of your opponent, and if you collect it before they do, you win. It's honestly very awkward and removes the satisfaction from winning. There's no killing blow or big hit. They just lose. And trying to get your soul after it's knocked out of you feels a lot like when someone kicks a ball too far during sports. Like, do we really have to go get it, or can we play something else? Anyways, the game's pretty bad. I give it 3 Gradius Maui heads out of 8. Next up, we got an arcade classic, the Outfoxies. And this is by far the oldest game on the list. In fact, this game is the first platform fighter ever made, being released in March of 1995. Yeah, before Smash Bros. So I guess we should title this video The Silly World of Outfoxies Clones? Nah, that's not gonna get views, change it back. Even though this game is older than Google itself, I personally really like the aesthetic here. It's about playing as a hitman, and each stage you're defeating other hitmen following the orders of Mr. Acme, the head honcho in this game. It's also back in that narrative Stone Age where nothing really had a rhyme or reason, so the characters are just random ideas slapped together. Like, there's a normal man, a monkey named Dweeb, a girl with her iguana, and 2 children. Not individually, I mean that this character is just 2 kids. This game just oozes personality. When you defeat an enemy in the arcade ladder, each character has a unique way of crossing them out. The kids scribble, the boring guy writes done, the monkey changes the channel, and it's all just really well thought out. Now, the gameplay here is a lot more basic than any other game on this list, but that's because it came out in 1995, which, as we all know, is before Evolution. You have a single attack button and a jump button. Yeah, 2 buttons. That's it, which is the exact same amount of buttons that I have in real life. The like button and the subscribe button. Also, please subscribe if you haven't already. I had to get all of this footage by myself, and playing a party game by yourself at 4 in the morning really makes you start to question your choices in life, so please, do it for me, come on. Now, the main difference between this game and Smash Bros is the usage of health bars, which, honestly, thank goodness. I'd rather have a game do something generic and tested versus a game that tries so hard to think outside of the box that it no-clips into a dumpster. The gameplay here is incredibly simple. You just have to kill your opponent before they kill you, but your melee attacks don't really do damage, so you have to rely on items. Whoa. Just like that, huh? Every single competitive Smash player just left the room. The items do have a variation, but honestly, some of them are just way better than others. Like the machine gun does negative damage, while the rocket launcher hits opponents so hard they respawn in the wrong game. The movement tech is a little deep, with the ability to jump up and down platforms, but it all feels a little too janky to execute correctly. The weirdest gimmick about this game, though, is that certain characters just have bonus traits. For example, Professor Ching's wheelchair is just bulletproof from behind. And Eve's iguana actually does things, like one time it brought me a live grenade, which killed me. That's awesome. I decided to beat the arcade mode in this game just so that we could see all of the content, and the stages here are actually really good. They evolve and change, have hazards and interactables, which is honestly very impressive for the time. I believe that this game has some of the best platforming stages I've ever seen in a platform fighter. In this aquarium stage, a bomb goes off, which makes an ornate whale fall down and get impaled by a statue. But that also causes the tanks on the side to rupture, so you have to get to the top floor or you'll be attacked in the new shark-infested water. There's a plane level where the rocket launcher just shakes the entire plane, a weapons factory that actually makes weapons for you to use, and nearly every stage in this game would hold up in any platform fighter that exists today. The last boss in this game actually just stinks though. You go to Mr. Acme's mansion to get your payment for killing all of those hitmen, and then you have to do a stupid Looney Tunes chase through a mansion that requires precise movement. You run away from dogs, awkwardly have to unbarricade a door while he pulls a lever and blasts you into a shark tank like it's a Tom and Jerry episode, and then you come face to face with Mr. Acme himself, which is now revealed to be a woman. You see, this game was made in the 90s, so a woman in charge is the big twist. They run away, take an elevator to the rooftop and get in a helicopter, and after hitting them with a rocket launcher a few times, the guy falls out of the helicopter and is crushed to death by his thick wife, which is exactly how I'm trying trying to die. And just like that, we beat the game. This one doesn't control too well and the combat is incredibly basic. But for an arcade game, I still really like it. Maybe it's the aesthetic, or the stages, or the genuine care put into every single sprite in this game. I don't know, but I'm gonna give it 7 broken television sets out of 10. Also, when the kids die in this game, their faces explode and they bleed out, and that's weird, right? That's weird. Next up, we got Onimusha Blade Warriors for the PlayStation 2. My friend actually rented this game when we were kids, and we thought it was the best thing ever. So like every other old video game, I'm sure this one is gonna hold up. Out of every game on the list, I think this one tries the hardest to be a traditional fighting game, sporting a ton of mechanics like parrying, combos, super moves, critical attacks, and even a stamina bar. Unfortunately though, it does every single mechanic poorly and then punctuates its bad decisions with worse decisions. There's a famous saying that states if you chase 2 hares, you're not gonna catch either. But this game is chasing more hares than a goddamn barbershop, am I right? There's health bars, which I'm happy about because you're not forced to do something silly in order to win. But the combat in this game is like a huge swimming pool with only an inch of water in it. Like diving in could have been fun, but now your friend is down 20 IQ points and on his way to the hospital. You get your standard attack button and a special button, but every character basically plays the same. For the attack button, they all have a single combo, an uppercut which you can't follow up with anything, and a sweep which knocks your opponent down. For the special button, there's a standard kick, a disarm, and 3 elemental soul moves which sounds really cool. You can also block, time your block to parry, and if you attack in the exact millisecond before they hit you, you do a critical counter. Now here's why all of that stuff doesn't matter, because nothing really does anything. For example, there's a low attack, but the block button blocks everything. There's an uppercut, but you can't follow it up with any of the characters. And besides a slight change in animation, everyone's combo functions the exact same. The disarm knocks your opponent's sword out of their hand, and then they just pull out another one? What does it do? It's a disarm that knocks their weapon away, but he just gets another one. And the kick is good to use if your opponent is blocking, but it just pushes them far away so you can't do anything with it. Building distance doesn't really matter, and I know that the game is a platform fighter, but I never found out why. The platforms don't really serve a purpose here besides trying to capitalize on the success of Smash Bros. And sure, some stages have hazards, but they hurt about as much as a sore throat. You can knock your opponent away, but there's no ring outs, so you still have to get back to them to deal damage. It feels a lot like playing catch by yourself. But now let's talk about the special moves, and by far the worst part of this game. Each character has 3 special elemental soul moves that are really strong and somewhat unique per character, but you can only use them once every time you find that specific elemental soul, which are basically these things that spawn out of random chests. I've played entire matches where I didn't find a single one, and I've played matches where I found multiple, and it's just such a silly choice to hide something that's so important to the gameplay behind a randomized item spawn. Imagine if every single time you used Dr. Mario's pill attack in Smash Bros, you had to call a pharmacy to see if it was in stock. It makes the game so much more basic because your special move button is practically disabled 90% of the game. And in turn, this creates an awful situation where the majority of the time that you're playing, you're kind of awkwardly running away from each other and trying to find souls and items. But to make matters a little bit worse, picking up the souls is the worst part. You have to hold the circle button to absorb the soul. And if 2 players are holding the button, it becomes this awkward tug of war where the winner is kind of selected at random. If you just run away from opponents and hold the button, chances are you'll always win when a soul spawns because they'll be stuck in each other's attack animations long enough for you to yoink it. Also, when you're the one attacking, you can be hit by a critical counter, which hurts way more than anything else in the game. So being on the offensive is a bad decision, and the AI knows that, so all they do is run away from you and find items and souls. But you want to know the funniest part about this game? The items are just so creative and feel like they were made for a platform fighter. For example, we have a beam rifle, a fan, a magic wand that makes stars come out, a cartoony, oversized hammer, and who can forget a home run bat? Something is telling me that if these items were put into a different platform fighter, one that has ring out mechanics and over-the-top characters that could match the aesthetic, it would probably be a pretty good game. But that's just a theory. I give this game 3 elemental souls out of 12. Man, I really wish that there was a different company that tried to make a platform fighter. Maybe a company that makes, I don't know, popular children's cartoon shows? Oh my god, not that one. Yeah, believe it or not, Cartoon Network actually tried to make their own Smash clone back in 2011. And it kind of flew under the radar because much like a solar eclipse, it hurts to look at it. Punch Time Explosion actually uses the Cartoon Network IP, but it's just so uncanny because of the art style. The roster features stars like Powerpuff Girls, Flapjack, Johnny Bravo, and even Captain Planet, and you'd think allowing them to use cartoon characters that are made to be robust, vibrant, and loud would be perfect for something like this, but this game is somehow the most lifeless of the bunch. Everything is just so buggy and slow. The characters look like Cartoon Network stars, but there's almost nothing that makes their attacks personal. They're just modeled to look like them, and it's just off. Like, if you saw this in a dark alley, you're telling me you wouldn't call the police? I want to talk about branding for a second because I feel like it's really important to my point. Pikachu is an electric rat. So in the original Smash Bros, he ran around super fast, threw an electric ball that conducted itself on the floor, called down lightning, and even used a quick attack from the games. Besides that, he hits opponents with his tail or even headbutts them with his tiny little head. And basically, even if you completely blacked this character out, you would still be able to instantly recognize that that's Pikachu. In Punch Time Explosion, there's none of that. They all just awkwardly punch and kick each other, but it doesn't look like anyone wants to be there. It feels like a bar fight in a rich suburb. And their special moves aren't much different. I don't think the voice lines were specifically recorded for this game either, and instead they just grabbed random clips from the cartoons. Like, listen to Flapjack's death sound. What the hell was that? There's actual stocks and a percentage counter in this game, making it almost a one-for-one attempt at Smash Bros. There's also a special meter you build for your Punch Time Explosion super move, which adds a little bit of depth, but it's okay. The whole game is just very low effort, like the people making it expected for their IP to carry them and didn't actually try. The percentages are just in straight up yellow Arial font. And I can't even tell if these percentages mean anything because I've hit characters at 200 that didn't move, and I hit characters at 50 that went flying. They at least tried to do a side-scrolling adventure-esque story mode, which I found to be pretty cool, but it's super repetitive and loses its value very fast. There's other modes too, like Punch Time Explosion mode, where you're competing to see who gets the most points in their special meter, and there's drone modes, where they spawn little enemies during the fight and you have to kill them for points. This one is about as fun as cleaning your house. I give the game credit for trying to rip off Smash Bros all the way down to the percentages, but I almost wish it didn't. Not trying to find your own unique gimmick make the problems in the game that much more apparent. Like, I'm not gonna challenge Mr. Olympia to a bodybuilding contest. That's his whole jam. Let's play rock, paper, scissors or something. There is zero reason to play this game over Smash Bros, and how did you mess this up? You already stole the core gameplay, just steal the rest of it. Put Pikachu in there. What's Nintendo gonna do, sue you? Yeah, they got me. I'm homeless. Finally, it's time for our last game on the list. Nickelodeon All-Stars Brawl 2. I mean, if one children's cartoon company can't succeed, it doesn't mean that another one can't, right? Nickelodeon All-Stars Brawl 2 is shocking. In our last video about Mario Kart clones, their kart racer was subpar to say the least. So my expectations were below sea level, like D at best. And after playing Nick All-Stars Brawl 2 for the sake of this video, I still can't really believe what I just played. All-Stars Brawl 2 is really good. This game is a perfect example of how you're supposed to take inspiration from one game and make your own. For starters, the roster in this game doesn't miss. They hit almost every single major Nick series here without overcrowding. And they even have some random characters that you wouldn't really expect. Like Ember from Danny Phantom, my first cartoon crush. But besides that, I really want to point to the aesthetic of this game because that's what surprised me the most. Every character is stylized to look like they're part of this universe, but they also manage to completely keep their personalities intact, with wonky facial expressions, exaggerated movements, and personality behind every animation. SpongeBob uses his karate gloves, his flying spatula, anchor arms, the imagination rainbow, and the reef blower from the earlier episodes. Garfield eats food, has word bubbles, and can transform into old Garfield, because ew. And Reptar hides behind a building when he blocks. This is the exact level level of branding I was talking about when I mentioned Pikachu earlier. Even if you don't like platform fighters, this game is such a great use of the IP that you'll have fun just trying to remember what episodes which move is based on. But besides the animation, the gameplay is inspired enough to feel similar, but different enough to add a ton of variance. There are 3 separate buttons here: your attack button, your special button, and your charge attack button. That last one may sound redundant until you realize that this means you can charge your smash attacks in the air, which is a game changer. The one thing that can't be understated about this game though is how good the impact feels. In a platform fighter especially, you want your attacks to feel like you're giving your opponent a concussion in real life, and landing a solid blow in this game gives you that exact response. The "oh my god, that blow was nasty, I may actually have to serve prison time" feeling. But the most insane thing about this game is that they added an entirely new mechanic called the slime meter, which gave me war flashbacks because that's what they called it in the bad kart racer. But it's actually done really well here. A slime allows you to empower all of your moves, stop your aerial momentum if you're about to die, cancel out of attacks to create new combos, and even do a signature special. This sounds like it may be overkill or too complicated, but no. This mechanic fits into a platform fighter perfectly and adds a whole new layer of depth when you're trying to outplay your opponent. This one mechanic essentially doubles the amount of special moves that every single character has. And they're not just lazy more damage modifications either. SpongeBob's bubble attack becomes 3 bubbles, which give him more coverage. SpongeBob's patty flip move becomes a fire attack, which applies damage over time. And it's just almost too good to be true. I feel like I dreamt it. Also, the single player campaign mode is just a roguelike, a full-blown roguelike with random pickups, overworld progression, and a completely voice-acted story. Nickelodeon, were you reading my diary? How did you know? This game wasn't supposed to be this good. The first Nick All-Stars Brawl came out an awkward and sloppy mess. It had 0 voice acting, so every fight felt like a serious moment in a shonen anime, where they cut off all the music and you just hear the fists smashing into skin. And I'm just stunned at how much they improved this time around. Though Nick All-Stars Brawl 2 isn't as good as a Smash Bros title, it's so darn close that the cease and desist are already on their way. Ah, damn it, they got me again. If there's any platform fighters I missed that you really want to see me play and talk about, please let me know in the comment section below and I'll make a funny video on them. I'm serious, I'm actually doing another platform fighter video and I need some recommendations, so please let me know. If you thought that this video was interesting, how about this video where I tried to beat a Mario and Sonic game at the same time? Or this video where I beat a Sonic game as 3 non-Sonic characters. They're both absolute bangers and I think you'll enjoy them if you enjoyed this one. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already. That's all I gotta say. Love ya!